Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to Ghost and Glitter. My name is Rachel, and today we're going over my August wrap-up. Okay, so you know how my August TBR was absolutely gigantic, and also all of my videos this month I've been like, oh my gosh, August is so chaotic and I'm super busy, and I still set myself a gigantic TBR that would be hard to complete in even a normal month. Yeah, no, that didn't go very well. That went about as good as expected. I don't even remember all the books that I put on there. I remember one distinctly that I did read this month. I'm pretty sure everything else I read this month was not on that TBR. So we're just going to forget that that video exists, and we're going to move forward. So today, I'm kind of going to order things in order of enjoyment. Not in order of enjoyment, but like a rating. An order of rating from lowest to highest. So we're going to end on a high note. Anyway, yeah, we're going to get into it. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more of this. The first book that I'm going to talk about is On the Farm. And this is a true crime book, so it has a really long subtitle. So I'm going to read it off now. It's On the Farm, Robert William Pickton and the Tragic Story of Vancouver's Missing Women by Stevie Cameron. This was a chunker of a true crime book. I listened to this on audio. It took me quite a while. It's about a 24 hour audiobook. And I didn't rate this, partly because I don't always rate nonfiction. I usually do, but partly because this book was so incredibly detailed. Like, okay, I'm kind of gonna do a pros and cons here. So the pros of this book is that it focused so hard on the actual victims, which there were many. It did give the backstory of Willie Pickton, who was the serial killer in this nonfiction. It went into his history, his childhood. It did look at him a lot, but you knew the backstory of just about every single one of his victims. And major props to the book for focusing so hard on each individual person and not just sweeping them under the rug as another victim, especially because a lot of these victims were, well, all of them were women. A lot of them, I think maybe even 100% of them, were sex workers, and a good handful of them were also Indigenous women. So I really give the book, or the author, props for all that research going into these many people's lives. It was incredibly well done. I thought, as far as me, who has never been impacted by something like this, I thought it was really respectfully done. It wasn't glorifying anything, and it covered everything from the very beginning of Willie Pickton's life and his murders, like when the murder started, all the way up to the trial and the aftermath of the trial. Really well researched and respectfully done book. So, and this is part of the reason why I didn't rate it, because that is absolutely how it should have been done. However, it made the book 24 more or less hours long, which is really hard to read because, one, that's just a really long book, and two, especially given the subject matter, it was a little hard to get through. If you read this, I entirely recommend it on audio, because that way you can like listen to it like you would a podcast instead of, I don't think I could ever have sat down and read more than a chapter of this with my eyes, just because of the subject matter and the length of the book. So I didn't rate it because there were so many moments where I was like, oh my God, I want this book to be over, but it needed to be the length that it was. So that is the first book. The next book on this list is, drumroll, I can't even say the name right. The House Across the Lake by Mr. Riley Sagar. Bit divisive, right? People either love the main twist or hate the main twist. And I'm not even going to say what that is, because that would spoil it for a lot of people. So I gave this 3 stars. It is my second least favorite Riley Sagar, my least favorite being Survive the Night. We'll do pros and cons for this again. Okay, the pros. I finished this book in 2 days. It was entirely readable. I didn't think that the part that people said was so slow was really that slow. I guess, yeah, it was kind of slow if you're like, I'm reading a thriller, but for me, I was okay with that. I enjoy his writing. Not always his plot or his decisions, but I enjoy, like, his actual writing style is just easy to read. It's easy. It's popcorn. It's easy. So, I enjoyed, I flew through the book. I never read a 350-page book in 2 days, very rarely. So I flew through it. I thought the character work was decently done. I thought the atmosphere was good. I appreciated the fact that he took the trope of the damaged female protagonist that is, you can't really believe everything that she's seen because she's either drug-addled or drinking alcohol the whole time, which she was drinking alcohol the whole time. Should I say what this is about? I'll say what this is about. Duh. So we're following our main character, Casey, who is recovering from the traumatic death of her husband. And she is doing that by going to her family lake cabin. Well, not cabin, lake house. It's just her in the house with a bunch of booze. And in the house across the lake, there is this couple, Catherine and whatever his name is, Royce. And one day Casey saves Catherine from drowning in the lake, and they become fast friends. And then, as happens in these sorts of books, Casey sees something in the Royce's home that makes her go, uh-oh, something's wrong. I better get out the binoculars. That's basically it. Okay, the cons for me, I guess the twist was a con. I didn't like it. I don't like this type of twist as a twist. And the ending didn't have that Riley Sager punchiness that I'm used to, which is really annoying. Survive the Night didn't have the punch either. Yeah, I don't know. This, I get why people like it. And I'm not going to say, don't read it. I should really never say don't read it. This can definitely work for some people. It's just unfortunate that it's going to take you until about the halfway mark to know if the twist is something that you like or not. And if I had known what the twist was, I would have not read this probably. So anyway, that was that. Besides The House Across the Lake and the fact that I didn't read anything practically from my TBR, this was a good reading month. So all the rest of the books I have to talk about are actually 4 stars or more. My 4-star is A Soft Place to Land by Janae Marks. This is a book that I really wanted to get to by the end of this year, and I'm very happy that I did. This is a middle grade by the author that wrote the book From the Desk of Zoe Washington, which I did like more, but nonetheless, this was still very good. We're following our main character, Joy. She is, she has her mom and her dad and her younger sister, and they have a happy life. But then her dad loses his job, and they have to move from their very comfortable house that she's lived in her entire life. They can't afford the mortgage for it, so they have to move to a cheap, small apartment. And Joy also has to make sacrifices, like she can't take piano lessons anymore because they can't afford it and stuff like that. I think she's going to a new school as well. So completely uprooted. She loves music, as you can tell. She loves music, and she's devastated that she can't do piano. It's just really hard. And basically this book is about her making friends with one of the neighbor girls in the apartment, making friends at school. Most of this book does take place in the actual apartment. There's not really any school setting. It's all in the apartment. But it's her coming to terms with going from having a comfortable amount of money to having a very uncomfortable amount of money. It's her having to start over. It's her growing up a little bit. It's her finding a place to be quiet and process things on her own in her own time. And it's her getting back on her feet. And it's a beautiful story. This is the story that I would have loved to read when I was in a similar situation when I was honestly probably her age. This is a really beautiful story just in general, and I would recommend anyone to pick up a book by Janae Marks. This is her, I think, just her sophomore novel, but I will continue to be picking up books by her because I think she just writes beautiful contemporary middle grade that's really heartfelt and writes adorable, sweet characters that you can really root for. Also, there's some cute dogs in here. So if nothing else, read it for the adorable dogs, because there's quite a few. One of them's name is Ziggy, and we love Ziggy. So 4 stars, really loved it. Coming in at 4.25 stars is an audiobook that I listened to on my journeys between states. So I listened to this all in one road trip. I think it's about a 7-hour audiobook if you don't speed it up. But I read Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This was kind of just a random checkout from Libby because I wanted to listen to a book and it was available and I said sure. So our main character's name is Lillian. She is a hilarious, cynical, dry sense of humor kind of lady. So first off, if that's not your thing, this book is probably not your thing because we are like in her head the whole time. She basically, I think she's in her 30s. She gets contacted by a long lost friend, Madison, that she knew back in, like, I think it was boarding school. And Madison has married rich. She's married to a senator. My neighbors are taking out their trash. That is rude. Fern also thinks that's rude. I don't know if you can hear her growling, but she's upset. So yeah, Madison gets in touch with Lillian. Madison has married rich. She's doing very well for herself. She's like, hey, I need a favor. And Lillian's like, anything for you, Madison. And Madison's like, will you nanny my stepchildren? She has 2 stepchildren. Their names, I don't know what their names are. They're twins, a boy and a girl. So Madison has 2 stepchildren that spontaneously combust. When they get agitated, they catch on fire. And Lillian says yes. So we're following Lillian as she's working for this rather rich family and taking care, in a very Nanny McPhee-esque scenario, taking care of 2 children that when they get really surprised or mad or excited, they start heating up and they'll catch on fire. They go. This book was so entertaining. I had such a good time reading this or listening to this. The audiobook is very good. It was funny. It was heartwarming. It's about relationships. It's about processing your feelings, processing trauma. It's just, it was beautiful in a weird way. I don't know. It's not a book that I think will necessarily stick with me. Like, I obviously already forgot these characters' names and stuff. So it's not like, oh, this is like, you know, it's in my head. I'll never stop thinking about this book, but it was so fun. It was so fun. It made me happy. And yeah, I think it's a good time. It's just a good time. You should read it. I don't know. Oh, I moved past the 4-star too quickly. Back to 4 stars. This was one of the books. This was the only book I read this month that I can recall anyway. That was actually on my August TBR. I read The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells, and I'm currently reading The Daughter of Dr. Moreau right now, which was exactly what I wanted to do, just I wanted to do it earlier in the month. Look at how beautiful she is. Here's the back, here's the front, here's the end pages. Barnes & Noble really do know how to make a beautiful little collection of things. So yes, I read The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. I gave it 4 stars. If you don't know, The Island of Dr. Moreau is about our protagonist, Prendick. That can't be his name. Nope, that's his name, Prendick. We're following our protagonist, Prendick, who basically, his ship goes down and he's rescued by this cargo ship that is taking a bunch of animals to this island. And one of the men accompanying the animals his name is Montgomery. He's like, come with me. You know, I mean, where else are you going to go? So we got Prendick, we got Montgomery, and we have Dr. Moreau. Those are our three main characters, and they are on an island, and Dr. Moreau is conducting deeply disturbing science experiments on animals and turning animals through quite a lot of cruelty and torture into human-like people. That's the whole discourse of the book. Are they people? Are they animals? Are they something in between? But yeah, he's mutilating animals to turn them into people. And I've actually never read anything by H.G. Wells before, and I was surprised at how readable this book was. I really enjoyed it. It's fairly short. It is a classic written in the 1800s, I want to say, in the 1800s by a white man. So there is some kind of uncomfortable racial language that is not surprising to be in there, but it's still not great. So there is that to be aware of when you go in. The book itself is really entertaining. It gives a lot of discourse around ethics and what makes a human a human. And it's also, I think, a really fun work of science fiction because it's, as far as I know, it's really unique of the time period that it was done. I've been wanting to read it for a while, and Sylvia Moreno Garcia's Daughter of Dr. Moreau, that book coming out kind of put the fire on me to check this out. And the sun is saying goodbye. So I gave The Island of Dr. Moreau 4 stars. Coming in at 4.5 stars, we have Just Like Mother by Anne Heltzel. Anne Heltzel. This book is a new release, came out just a few months ago, I think. In this book, we're following our main character, Maeve, who, when she was younger, was part of this matriarchal mother cult that was raided and broken up. And Maeve lost all contact with her cousin and best friend, Andrea. And as an adult, Maeve has been, doing the DNA websites and stuff, trying to, maybe find Andrea. And suddenly, woohoo, there she is. There's a match. And they connect and they get back in touch and they meet up and they're just like, this is amazing. Woohoo, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And Andrea just doesn't want to talk about the mother cult. And Maeve's like, you know what? Fair. That was traumatizing. Basically, Maeve finds herself moving in with Andrea because Andrea has this huge mansion, pretty much like historical mansion. And Maeve moves in with her just, to save on money and stuff like that. And she meets a lot of Andrea's friends and stuff. And Maeve is the only single person, in this setting. She's the only person that doesn't want a child or doesn't have a child in this setting. And a lot of Andrea's friends disapprove of her. I'm just going to leave the synopsis there because you can probably kind of tell the direction this is going to go. I really enjoyed this book. I thought the writing was really great. Some parts were predictable, but I never hold that against a book. If I can predict something, that doesn't bother me that much. It's more of how it is executed. And I thought the twists and the plot in general was just done really well. It read like if you took your typical domestic thriller, but like made the characters a little more believable and made the plot a little less popcorny and predictable. So I feel like, cause like this does have horror elements to it. So I think it is classified correctly being in the horror genre, but it's quite light horror, at least to me. And I think if you are a thriller lover wanting to dip your toe into horror, this would be a good segue for you because it does have a lot of your typical domestic thriller, not tropes, but it just has that feel. It's got that coziness to it that you want in a domestic thriller with a little bit of like, ooh, thrown in. I thought the character work was really good. I thought the twist, the plot was really good. The descriptions were great. I could see everything really viscerally. And I really enjoyed the animatronic, lifelike babies. I'll leave it at that. Final 2 books are my 2 5 stars of the month. And I loved these books. I don't know which I loved more, so I'm not giving them in necessarily the order that I enjoyed them, because I love these two books so much, so much. First, as you can probably guess, Nettle Bone by T. Kingfisher, who has officially stamped herself into my heart as a favorite author. So Nettle Bone is a dark fantasy novella. In true Kingfisher style, she does such a good job of cutting the darkness with humor. And I know that doesn't work for a lot of people, so I think you should know going into this book, it is not all grim, dark, 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 dark. It is dark, but humorous. To me, the humor fits. It's not disjointed, it's actually funny. I love the character dynamics, these found family kind of friendships and stuff. This book in particular, well, I'll just tell you what it's about. So we're following our main character, Mara. She is the youngest of 3 princess sisters in a harbor kingdom bordered by these 2 larger kingdoms, the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom. And her eldest sister is wed to I believe it's the Southern Kingdom's prince. And within a few months, her body is shipped back, like she has died in a tragic accident. And to replace her, the next eldest sister is wed to this prince, and she goes her own way, and Mara goes to live in a coven, and, you know, life goes on. Fast track to when Mara is 30 years old. She visits her sister, and she realizes that her sister is basically being abused by this prince. And the only way out is to kill the prince. There is no other way for her sister to get out of this and keep the country or the land at peace. And yeah, so basically Mara decides, well, I'm going to go kill the prince. And so Mara gets this little grouping of friends together. We have a dust wife who is basically a kind of a witchy person that can talk to the dead. We have a man that is rescued from a fairy market. We have a reluctant fairy godmother, and we have my favorite, a bone dog. A dog made of bones. He is adorable. His name is Bone Dog, and I love him very much. Also, there's a chicken possessed by a demon. I forgot about that. Bone Dog is still my favorite, but the demon possessed chicken is also. So we have this ragtag group of people basically going on a quest to kill a prince. Okay, and then finally, this is funny because we're actually ending with the first book I read this month. My final book to talk about and my other 5-star read is The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. So this was so fun. I described this to my mom as if you took Jurassic Park, made it kaiju like Godzilla instead of dinosaurs, and then made it kind of all the characters like Jeff Goldblum's character. It still has its serious moments, but there's a lot of humor in this, and it's not misplaced. It's so weird how good this book is. So we're following our main character, Jamie Gray, who is COVID has just recently hit New York City, and he finds himself without a job, and he's basically a door dasher. That's basically what his job is. And he's delivering food to this really nice townhouse or something. And the guy that lives there is like, hey, I know you. We went to college together. And he's like, you know what? I work for this conservation group, and we need someone to do grunt work for us. And Jamie's like, cool. And they're like, we'll pay you a lot. And he's like, cool, I'll take it. And we find ourselves working for the Kaiju Preservation Society, where Jamie does do a lot of the grunt work, but we have scientists. It's just an amalgamation of characters that are funny, that are diverse. It's just, I was going to say it's such a wholesome book, and it is. It just feels weird to say that about basically a book about preserving Godzilla. But there is a lot of science in here, but it's not like overwhelming, and it made this science nerd pretty happy to have like actual explanations for things. I don't want that to scare any of my not science nerds out there from reading this though, because it comes in bursts and it's really easy to digest, whether you enjoy science or not. But yeah, we're basically following Jamie as he works to preserve kaiju. And of course, there are people besides the conservationists that know about the existence of kaiju, political figures and billionaires in particular. And of course, they are the villains of the story and the catalyst as to why this isn't just like a fun observance of Godzilla type creatures. That was not a great explanation of what this book was or is, but it is so fun. It's adventure, it's sci-fi, it's humor. 5 stars. So with that, that is my August wrap up. We had 8 books here, and one of them was from my August TBR. I'll be putting up my fall TBR soon. I'm not going to do a month-by-month TBR for the next 3 months because I still want to get to a lot of the books that I talked about in August. But with that, I hope you all have a great day and a great rest of your week, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!